live into Facebook. And we are live. This is very exciting. Every single week is so exciting. So I'm going to just say hello to everyone. My name is Misha Safran. As many of you know, many of you are used to me by now, and it's so exciting that you know who I am. And wow, I have so many different places I am right now. I'm learning to broaden myself and also get a little bit more zoned in. So, right now, I am a heartstring healer, transformational life coach, joy coach, parenting coach, academic life coach. I definitely never get bored. And I am super excited to be continuing this podcast and have an introduction today with this is number 26 with my special guest, Juliet Humphrey. And we are starting here 11:30ish Eastern time, where the topic is coexistence, joy, pain, and truth. It is a casual conversation that I have with my guests, and my guests are never required to answer anything they don't want to answer. And we like to hold just a comfortable, loving space. If you are listening on Podbean or watching on Facebook, or you're watching the replay on Facebook or on YouTube, any questions I ask my guest, pretend you're the guest and answer the questions in the chat or in the comments and let us know where you stand with these questions. The idea of this podcast has been to fully create, embrace, and maintain joy, knowing all the while that there is pain on our journey and that we really cannot have one without the other, and both are temporary. So, let me introduce you to Juliet. I am delighted. Juliet is a colleague of mine in my coaching program, a delightful woman, have enjoyed her feedback and contributions in our program. And so I'm really happy that you've decided to be my guest today. Juliet Humphrey has been studying the Enneagram for a decade, learning from some of the world's foremost teachers from both the narrative tradition, the Enneagram Institute, and from others, particularly those who have received this knowledge directly from esteemed Enneagram leaders like Claudio Naranjo. In 2018, Juliet participated in his symposium on the character of self-actualized beings. Juliet is now accredited with the International Coaching Federation through Integrative Enneagram Solutions. Juliet supports couples, though often the women come to her first, through profound and yet practical wisdom of the Ancient Enneagram personality and essence in their relationships, bringing to light for partners their unconscious values and beliefs so that they can find deeper connection where there was disconnection, clarity where there was confusion, and the original spark is ignited and protected. Additionally, Juliet is a goal mapping coach. And just that last sentence, bringing light, beliefs, deeper connection, but where there was disconnection, and then clarity where there was confusion. Isn't this the essence of coexistence? Welcome, Juliet.
Hi. Lovely. So lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, how
And
are you? Tell everyone.
good. I was thinking a lot about this afternoon, this session we were going to be having, and percolating in my mind, what does this mean for me? How is it showing up in my life? The whole range of this theme. And I guess there's one aspect where I'm thinking of in the work with the Enneagram, maybe some of you have heard about it. It's coming out there more and more in the mainstream. It's been used in the prisons in the States. It's in the banks of South Africa. It's just coming out there more and more. And it's like I consider it like the daddy of personality profiling, because it comes down to the motivations behind behavior. Why do we do the thing? Not just the behavior, because certain personalities can look alike, but they have very different motivations. So this was a profoundly interesting tool for me, because I began to see more of the depth to myself. And essentially I use the iceberg analogy. You know, we often only know the top part very well, but we really don't know the underneath, you know, the deeper unspoken, the unconscious stuff. So essentially it's a bit like, here's a blue iceberg, or here's a pink iceberg, and then you have a purple dance. And depending on how pink or how blue, you're going to have a variation of purple, and that can change in a day or a month. And it's that purple dance that I'm really fascinated by, and what's going on that's making this dynamic flow or block or create the dance, or the dynamic, if you will. So you know, where does the pain come from, and where does the joy come from? And I found the system so profound in realizing the pain points in our lives and the joy points, and in essence, our gold and our shadow. And I love trying to hold them together, befriend. As I use the phrase, access the gold and befriend the shadow. So, or, you know, so they're held together, and we're less frightened to face our deeper unknown sides, or the sides that we don't want to look at, that cause us pain. That, you know, it's not so much that what, you know, those experiences in life that we feel pain from, but what pain are we in a way creating because of our worldview, because we're so fixed on how it should be, you know. And so I use the analogy of colored glasses. So if I've got blue glasses and someone's got red glasses, then if I'm so bent on it has to be like this, has to be like this, has to be like this, because it's red, and you know, then it's blue from someone else's point of view, then you can see the stress and the frustrations coming up. And often my question is, how do we create our own pain and our own suffering, because we're imposing on the world how it should be. We have such expectations, you know. So and then the other question, the other swing to the other side is, how do we miss all the points of joy, all the possibilities of joy, you know? And so if we pull these glasses down and have a clearer view, we then have more choice and more options to decide, so how much pain do I want to experience, and how much joy do I want to experience?
Important.
And for me, the choice, having that choice, is the exciting bit. So that's what I've learned in the journey of the Enneagram. It's this, and in a way, there's a lovely phrase that summarizes it up: laughing and weeping. How do we laugh at ourselves? How do we find the comedy in our own nature? And then how do we also perhaps feel that, embrace that loss of, we've forgotten who we really are, and the sadness, you know, of not meeting our own expectations. And so it's honoring both. But it's also, we have such choice when we choose to see differently.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
What was the phrase you used again? Access the gold and
I said embrace the shadow.
embrace the shadow. I thought you said erase the shadow.
Sorry. Well,
And I'm like,
the challenge.
no, we
No,
have
no,
to
no,
deny
no,
the existence of the shadow. It's like
no.
so
Thank you for clarifying. I'm so glad you got that.
yeah,
No, no. That's an endless, painful fight if we're always trying to do that. So.
absolutely. Yeah, and you know, this
Yeah.
idea of, you know, you had in your bio connection and disconnection, right? I mean,
Mm,
there's a certain point where the disconnection comes, the connection comes when we stop disconnecting from ourself,
exactly.
right? So the more we
Yeah,
connect to ourself, the less disconnected we might feel, and be able to embrace all that is beautiful in our lives, right?
absolutely.
And then if we are beholden to feeling disconnected, like that's my life story, I'm disconnected, I don't fit in, I don't belong. We may have evidence for that, but we don't have to stay in that story. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how
So
does the Enneagram help people understand what is the Enneagram? Actually,
good question.
it's a code,
Yes,
right? I mean, it's some kind of code.
kind of. I suppose it's a map, more of a universal map of the human condition, and it goes. I love the history of it. It goes back 5,000 years, linking to Pythagoras, and some of the deeper universal laws. There's like there's just levels of knowledge. So I love its ancientness, and it's just come around the world somehow over the centuries, traveled, and it was secret knowledge for. So it was. Let's go back to the 3rd century, where you had Egypt and you had the mystic monks and nuns. They were called the desert fathers and mothers. They hid in the caves of the desert, away from the powers that be that were very oppressive. And one of the particular spiritual directors there, they would come to him and they'd say, on Monday I was in heaven, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I was in hell. And he would say, well, you've been here all the time, so clearly.
You've been here all the time. You haven't gone anywhere.
Exactly. So he was like, so where have you actually been? And where's in your head? What's been happening in your head? Tell me about this experience. And he started writing down. He started hearing the patterns. He said, I've heard this pattern before. And he started noting the common patterns, the common internal experiences. And he was the first one that slowly started putting these patterns into some sort of logical order, or just writing them down, and those essentially, I'm trying not to use this word, but it's part of the history of it. And in some ways, so he found that he would see the common vices, the blocks that stop us, what stops us having connection. And so he would see that if you were having these experiences, here's the vice. And it's great that you can see it, because the vice is like it's a grip on a piece of wood. It holds a piece of wood tight, so that you can do something. But actually, if it's a tool that's not used correctly, it keeps something so tight you can't get it out. And I see the vice like in our own personality. It's like it keeps us so strung up, and we can't see it. It's a bit invisible, but we kind of know it's there, because life's a bit rigid and difficult and we don't have the freedom. And the journey with the Enneagram is slowly to release the shadow, or this vice that keeps you stuck, and
So,
essentially.
give me 1 second. For those people who are
Yeah.
listening and not actually seeing the visual, Juliet
Yes.
was referring to this device that would, it latches on to perhaps a table or a piece of wood so that it restrains it. And what she was showing as a visual was putting her hand around her throat to convey the constriction, the restriction, and that one by one releasing it to allow, as we embrace the shadow, to release that grip that is tightly around us. So go ahead, Juliet. I just
No,
sometimes
exactly.
people don't
Thank
always
you.
get to see the video, so they're listening, and I want to make sure they can, see in their mind what you're doing.
Thank you for that. That's a good point. Yes. So essentially, slowly as it came around, it was through the work of it, we began to discover what are the particular personality vices, those aspects that keep us repeating or stuck. And essentially, in that 3rd century, in Constantinople times, Constantinople times. He, in those Christian era, those were sort of linked to the 7 sins, and sins being off the mark. I really struggle with that word because it's overused, but really it's off the mark. Where have we got caught, got trapped, and we're not free. So I find that's more interesting, and it's like this vice. Where have we got ourselves caught? We've trapped ourselves, and how do we lessen and see our own traps so that we have more joy, more liberation, and we reduce our own inner suffering. And so there's more of this coexistence, but living with it in a more delicate dance, that we're not trapped, but rather we have more choice. Do you see what I mean? So
Absolutely. Well, and
Great.
you mentioned this that notion of being stuck, and a lot of you work with couples. Granted, the women come to you first usually, but in a lot of relationships, whether people are married or just in couples or even siblings or parents or whatever, there is this feeling of stuck sometimes, right? So how does the Enneagram actually help the couple kind of relinquish that shadow
Mhm.
to move through the inner suffering so that they can be a whole couple with each other?
Beautiful question. So, in essence, this is through my own discovery of the Enneagram, I began to see this power, this potential in my own life, in my own relationships, because I was having these looping patterns, and I'm like, it's the same thing. How do we get out of this? And I had my mentor, explain, this is what's happening. So there are 9 types, and they each have their sort of angle, their glasses, their worldview, and so you have it's called the fixation. So essentially, if you can see, like, so if the woman is they're numbered just for easy reference, but often with archetypal names as well. So maybe you have a type 2 giver, and she just wants to give because the deeper motivations for the type 2, the giver, is to get love by being helpful. So overly helpful, always there, but actually not always so helpful, ironically. So there's the vice.
Uh-huh.
That's what's just overly giving. I've got my hand
Sounds like
around my neck
codependency.
again.
Sounds like codependency.
Yes, bingo, bingo, exactly. And then you've got maybe a male, the man is a type 5, and a type 5 is considered like the observer, the investigator, the professor, often, leaning back, much more aloof, very strong boundaries, very withholding of own energy. So you've got the woman giving, 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 and the man is quietly receiving all this attention, but not giving a lot back, and not realizing, very much in his head, not realizing that the woman is overcompensating because there's not a flow, because there's too much giving in one direction and too much taking from the man. So then you can see the imbalance and the potential burnout, and the frustration of the woman type 2, and plus we have gender needs. So I also am aware of our how we are wired, and there's other things going on too, but essentially that's the way we are seeing the world dominates the way we're operating, our operating system. So I often call our ego, our personality, is our operating system, our iOS. So if we get to see what's going on in the iOS, we get the illuminations and saying, well, is the journey for this woman would be, is this really being helpful? And actually, if you give time for your partner to miss you or have more space, allow him to find chances to give to you. But if you're always giving, well, there's almost no chance you've done the job for him. So
Interesting.
often,
I'm in a, I am part, how do I say this? I'm drawing a blank here. I'm hearing you talk about the male and female in coupleship, and I'm in a community that's lesbian, bisexual, queer, trans, and gay. And so I'm thinking of, well, then you've got 2 women, or you've got 2 men, or
yes,
you've got non-binary. And so this Enneagram was created at such a time where that wasn't really language or even awareness. And so, thinking about everybody can benefit from Enneagram work.
yes, exactly.
Anybody can benefit from learning their styles and types so that they can then blend beautifully and find that joy in partnership if that's where they want to be. But even a person like myself, probably, well, not even probably, I know I have the feminine and I have the masculine. And I do
Exactly.
actually have proponents of myself that is very mixed up.
Yes, yes. So you're embracing the whole range of you, exactly. And exactly that. So what I love about the Enneagram, it's about this inner, it's our inner worldview, it's our inner operating system, and I love it because it's deeper than gender, I believe. And but I just happen it's just that I'm heterosexual, so my experience has been with men, and we have that phrase, battle of the sexes, and I'm trying to make it a compliment. And so it happens happens to be my particular niche just because of my personal experiences, but I love it because it's our worldview. And when we've got our fixations and our vices, that will always be where the dynamics get interesting. That will be the main stuff being part of the dance or the dynamic. Exactly.
Absolutely. And I do want to mention, just for the people who are watching and listening, that I mean, I think it's important for people to know there is a primarily heterosexual directed coaching for them with regards to the Enneagram. And I love the fact that you're saying very clearly, that's what I do because that's what I know. That doesn't mean there aren't resources out there for other communities. And the group that we're
Absolutely.
live streaming into right now, and then my YouTube channel, is people of all over the place, right? So if
Yeah.
they're wanting to work with you on their Enneagram, how do they reach you?
Ah, that's so kind to ask. Well, I have a little group called the Relationship Translator Tribe, and that's on Facebook. And I can give you the link at the end. It would be lovely to have any of you there. I'm slowly every day I'm putting up a little 5-minute video about each type, and the question is to see, what do you recognize of yourself? Do you recognize it? Because we have everything with a whole range. And so it's so, or does a face come to mind? Oh, that's my mother. Oh, yes, that's exactly that. Oh, they used to start having percolation. So come in, jump in, and then I'm doing a connection challenge just before Valentine's Day. And as just because that happens to be my experience, I'm interested and open, what would it look like? Because I just know the Enneagram map is just so profound and useful for anybody. So I'm open to discovering new aspects of working with people. It is my particular niche, but if you need help because you're realizing you're in some loops, like I'm just happy to give you some little glimpses of light, or see if there's shine some light in those. Put some joy in the friction, or just make it easier. If I can do that, that's for me. My job is just the tool of the Enneagram, illuminating our souls so that we get to love each other more. And I'm all about deeper connection and more compassion for people, because this is a tool for compassion. The more you see yourself, the more you see a whole range, you think, and this is the level of this tool. Everybody has the same swirling stuff inside. And then the more you see yourself, the more you get interested in others, and you think, gosh, what is going on for other people, and how can I love them more? So that's what I love about it.
Oh, I love that. So anybody is welcome to join
Yeah.
Juliet's private Facebook group. We'll put the link in the chat, and actually I'll put it in the description after the whole video is downloaded and changed, change its form, converted. And
Yeah.
so your challenge, you're saying it's called a connection challenge, and what is that? Tell us more about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so essentially we're looking more in depth of the Enneagram, because there are 9 types. So each day it's 3 days. It's the 9th, 10th, 11th of February, just before Valentine's Day. So because we're in lockdown here in the UK, in Wales. But I don't know how it's going around the world, but I guess you have various degrees of how much freedom you have. So I'm realizing these are testing times, and how do we love each other when we're under interesting conditions, and how do we keep choosing to love the people we're confined with, and really making that choice. So I'm trying to help, if I can do a tiny bit in making Valentine's Day, because there's lots of, it can bring up so much tension for expectations. People hate it, people love it, and I just want to, whatever people's judgments are about that day, it highlights extra tensions going on underneath. So if I can bring a little bit joy in the midst of the pain, if I can help you coexist with it all,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to give inklings of ideas and new ways just to have more compassion. So it's each day we're going to look at the 9 types are the head types and the heart types and the belly action types. So each day we'll have a look at their love needs. What are they really needing? Because I also use the love languages. So it's like, how do we connect with their deeper needs? How do we serve them in a new way? How do we see them? Because our deepest innate need is to feel seen and heard. And that's real love. That's the truth of love for
Absolutely.
me. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. You seem like a very joyful person. Is this something that's new, or is it something you cultivated, or have you always been just a happy, bubbly, cheerful person?
So this links to my type, actually, my profiling type, my person. I'm a 4, and ironically, one of the archetypal names is the tragic romantic. Hence, and my name is Juliet. So I'm all about relationships. And the joke is my mission is, trying to prevent the tragedy and make it a comedy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh. I wonder
so
if I'm a 4. I might have to call you up and see what my Enneagram is.
yes, yes, I'm booking in some slots of free relationship breakthrough sessions. So do jump on. I'll put the link in for that afterwards as well. Just half an hour, just to see, maybe just to feel your type and to see what's going on. But exactly that. It's the joy has been a mixture of real cultivated, because a fixation for the type 4 intense creative stroke tragic romantic individualist is melancholy. So I've always had this lurking sadness, and I've had to really embrace a deeper sadness, like, the cherry blossoms in Japan, they're so beautiful, but they're going to fade. And
Oh,
that's kind of the essence of
oh.
the type 4, that romantic heart, the
Oh,
beauty,
that's
but
not me then. No, that's not me.
so there's a little bit of that. But I think when I began to do personal development, I really, it's very cultivated, and I choose to see joy a lot. I choose to find pleasure in the simplest of things, because my default, that seeing the gap, the type 4s can see what's missing, what's not there, and it's like a default thinking, and I try and balance that for seeing all the things to be grateful and joyful about, what is in front of me. So in one sense, I'm wanting to consciously balance what is unconsciously just riding the program as my type. So there's the inner work. And therefore, I love it that I'm perceived as grateful and joyful, because in a way, it kind of means that I'm, in a way, the work is to lessen the grip, and I'm not so gripped by my vice, or I'm not so trapped in my default programmings. And so I love it, because that for me means I'm freer and I'm more liberated.
And
So
don't
thank you.
everyone want to feel freer from their pain and feel more joy? And yeah, it's absolutely, I think, the work that you do, the work that I do, the work that we all do to live a life that is fulfilled and full of sanity, calm, love, compassion. We really have a lot of work to do on the inside before we can really feel that on the outside as well, right? To be able to emit it. And so I know that one of the things that I learned for me, which is really important, was that I couldn't necessarily do this alone, and so working with different people in my community or in my life to foster, nurture, and cultivate this feeling of joy and positivity, but also acknowledging that coexistence, that there is pain, there is discomfort, and it's okay
Yeah.
to feel those, and then let's move through it and find the joy. I mean, like I said in the beginning, it's all temporary, and we
Yes.
it's about how do we embrace it and maintain what really works for us.
Yeah.
So I'm just delighted, Juliet, that you are here with me today. Thank you very much. For everyone watching and listening, I will put Juliet's contact information and Facebook group into the comments. And is there one tip, Juliet, that you would like to give our listeners or viewers around being able to either be in joy or acknowledge the pain to get to the joy? What do you have a tip that you'd like to offer?
I think what I've been doing in my coaching program, is when people have brought their stuff up, and often it's the pain first, it's really an honoring, and we honor even the potential loss of the future, and and there's that little child inside. So it's more about just, um we don't have to don't have to stay in the pain, we don't have to wallow. It's just honoring and seeing. We don't have to fix it. We just, wherever you feel the wound or the pain in your body, just put your hand there and just say, I see you. Like the Avatar movie, just say, I see you.
I see you. Yep, I love that phrase and that the meaning behind it. Thank you.
Yeah. So
All right, everybody. I can't believe that the half hour went by really fast.
I realize I've got so much more to say, and this, yeah, and also to embrace physical pain. I do wild swimming, and when you're in that freezing cold water, I've now developed a pleasure. There's a pleasure in the pain, and in that I'm alive. I'm fully alive because there's sensation in the body, and my heart is slowed down and I'm relaxed, and it's just the most wonderful thing to be able to have this freezing cold physical pain and relaxed heart expansion. So doing physical things, if you can find that pleasure and pain in the same moment, that's another journey. It's
Beautiful.
another
Thank you.
experience.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
just a reminder to our viewers and our listeners, this is a podcast that I host every week on Thursdays, Thankful Thursday, and generally at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. But we had to do a little switcheroo because I'm in a training all day and didn't want to miss the opportunity to have this interview. So, please feel free to come back next Thursday to this podcast channel and also to this private Facebook group for women who are desiring authentic and wholehearted joy in their daily lives, and then on YouTube. And if you have questions or you'd like to be a guest on my podcast, please feel free to send me a message or an email. Message through Facebook. Email is misha@safranconsulting.com. And I'll pop information into the comments regarding how to contact Juliet if you'd like to have your Enneagram done. And just sending everybody a lot of love and hope for joy in your life today. Thank you very much for listening, and we say goodbye. Bye.
Goodbye. Lots of love.